Good morning and good evening. Thank you so much for joining our online symposium, Inter-Asia in Motion, Dance as Method. I'm Su-Dian Yoon, Assistant Professor in Cultural Studies at Lingnan University and the co-organizer of the symposium. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Emily Wilcox. I'm also the co-organizer for the symposium. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Emily. Today's symposium is associated with the special issue of the Inter-Asia Cultural Studies Journal that Emily and I are co-editing. In 3 different sessions, 13 contributors to our special issue will explore embodied practices in the Inter-Asia framework, inviting us to consider what new forms of movement activate Inter-Asia relations and how Inter-Asia not only inspires, but becomes a choreographic method. Each speaker will present their work in progress for about 10 minutes. Each session is followed by a 15-minute Q&A, and there will be a 5-minute break in between the first 2 sessions. The third and last session will be held later this evening in the Asia Pacific time or tomorrow morning in the Eastern time, depending on where you are. Today's symposium is hosted and sponsored by the Center for Cultural Research and Development at Lingnan University here in Hong Kong. At this point, I would like to invite Professor Tejaswini Niranjana, the director of the Center for Cultural Research and Development, to say a few words. Teju?
Hello, I just want to say a few words of welcome. I'm the 2-term chair of the ISES Society. I'm the current director of the CCRD, which is hosting the symposium and has been a key hub of ISES activities throughout the existence of the network. For some of you who may be new to ISES, let me say briefly, that is a loose network of scholars, practitioners, and activists based for the most part in Asia. It engages with how to produce a critical account of our complex social political histories in the region, interrogating nation-state boundaries that come in the way of articulating those complexities. ISES works in a distributed way across the platforms of the journal, the book publications, the biannual conferences, and the biannual research training summer camps, not to mention courses that institutional partners teach in a dozen Asian locations and elsewhere too. So Inter-Asia, which started off as a phrase like a neologism over 2 decades ago, today refers also to a conceptual political cultural space where dialogic flows can be mapped. In this space, creative movement or dance becomes an exemplary instance of the interreferencing that characterizes Asia as method. I know the ISES network is delighted to engage with the choreographic method proposed by the hosts of today's symposium, Su-Dian Yoon and Emily Wilcox. I wish all the wonderful scholars here a very warm welcome to virtual Hong Kong and look forward with great anticipation to the special issue of ISES to which you're all contributing. I think we can start the sessions now.
Thank you so much, Teju, for your wonderful and generous remarks. So before we begin, I'd like to share a few words. Also, Emily would like to share a few words, but we just wanted to talk a little bit about how we came about with this particular project. We first conceived of the special issue of the symposium back in 2019, when the Department of Cultural Studies, my home department at Lingnan University, invited Emily Wilcox to give a talk on her new book on Chinese dance and socialist legacy. At the lunch table following the talk, Emily and I shared our mutual interests in Inter-Asia, specifically about foregrounding dance research in the existing Inter-Asia cultural studies. My own research concerns the transnational circulation of African diasporic performance in Korea in the broader East Asian region with regards to global Afro-Asian relations. So I have paid attention to how each national or nationalist cultural entity refers not only to the global Afro-Asian affinity, but it's a relationality to and within the inter-Asia context in terms of how, for instance, Korean dancers understand their ethno-racial subjectivity and anti-racist aesthetic experimentations comparatively with other Asian dancers in historically imbricated contexts. This raises a few questions, but more predominantly a question of two Euro-American dance idioms, specifically focusing on racialized implications of dance and within the Asian context. So the question has prompted me over the years to ruminate on the kinds of new methods and framework that emerge from such endeavors. So this seems very fitting to me to be in conversation not only with my co-editor and co-organizer, Emily Wilcox, but also with our wonderful speakers for today. So Emily would like to share a few words before we begin.
Sure, great. Thanks, Surian. So of course, first, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank the Department of Cultural Studies and the Center for Cultural Research and Development at Lingnan University for hosting this event. And I want to give a special thanks to Holly for all of her logistics support and designing the poster and helping to advertise this event. We really appreciate this, being able to join together virtually, and especially since, as we've already mentioned, this symposium is preparation for a special journal issue that will be coming out in print with the Journal of Inter-Asia Cultural Studies, of course, pending review. So we're very happy to have this opportunity to be in dialogue, and we are eagerly awaiting comments and questions from the audience, as well as questions and conversations among the panelists, which we hope will help to enrich the special issue. And we also acknowledge that many of us have not met each other before, and I think this is really a wonderful opportunity to bring together scholars who, like us, are thinking about dance in inter-Asia contexts, so that we can continue this dialogue even after this symposium. So when Surian and I put out the call for papers for the special issue a year ago in June of 2020, we really didn't know what to expect because this is still an emerging field of study. And we were shocked and also inspired. We received 37 submissions. And unfortunately, because of one journal issue, we could only accept approximately 12 of those submissions. And it was very difficult actually, because they were all of a very high quality, introducing very innovative approaches to the subject. And we're very excited for the presentations that we have today, because they were the ones that we felt spoke most directly to our specific concern of how dance can help us to theorize and methodologically enrich this field of inter-Asia cultural studies, which has been developing for at least a decade now, primarily in historical studies, in literary studies. Cinema studies has really been expanding in this field. And we felt that dance studies and performance studies has a great deal to offer in thinking in new ways about inter-Asia connections. So from talking about sort of my own journey and how I became interested in inter-Asia, as some of you may know, I primarily study dance in China. And in the process of writing my book on the history of dance in the People's Republic of China, I encountered so many examples in which transnational interactions within Asia had shaped the emergence of what ultimately was a national dance form. And so we often think of inter-Asia as a way to escape the framework of the nation, which I absolutely think is one of its huge benefits. But at the same time, I also found how inter-Asia can help us to better understand the nation and the process of nation building. So I got interested in this larger conversation of inter-Asia back in 2016 when I was fortunate to be a part of the Social Science Research Council Inter-Asia program, which was actually launched in 2008. And I thought it would be interesting just to share a little bit of how the program describes itself. So the SSRC's Inter-Asia program, quote, challenges the implications and limitations of the Asia construct by promoting frameworks and concepts for a new generation of scholarship that reconceptualizes Asia as a dynamic and interconnected formation spanning Central Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East and Russia. So through collaborative research, scholarly networking, and public policy connections, the SSRC has been trying to promote scholarship that moves beyond what they call territorial fixities of area studies research without discounting the importance of contextually grounded place-based knowledge. So they actually funded 83 junior scholar fellowships between 2012 and 2018. And so there's been a whole body of scholarship now that's been emerging in this field of inter-Asia cultural studies. And I was, able to benefit from the conversations in that community, and it's continued to inspire me. And currently I'm working on a new book project that specifically looks at inter-Asia dance and thinking about cross-ethnic representations in the context of staged performance within Asia. So I'm very much thinking about how today's conversation can enrich my own scholarship, as I'm sure all of us are. And I just want to invite everyone, as you're listening to the paper presentations during the session now, and then the session that will happen later on, to really think about the different kind of theoretical frameworks that our speakers are offering, because we will be having an internal workshop at the end of the symposium where the presenters will actually be giving each other feedback on their papers. And so we've had an opportunity to read each other's papers. And I've really been really impressed by the many different frameworks that these papers are offering for us to think about inter-Asia. And I hope that by the end of the symposium, we will be able to talk in a wide array of ways about what inter-Asia means in terms of convergences, diasporas, diplomacy, cultural politics, as well as choreography as an inter-Asia practice. So without further ado, I think now we can take a very short pause and we will get ready with our first panel at exactly 8:30. So feel free to stay on, and we might just do a little bit of testing of slides, but take a break and we will join back in 9 minutes at 8:30. Thank you so much, and see you back in a few minutes, everyone.